So I did a video a few days ago about the smallness of our politics when compared to the size of the changes that are occurring around us in the world. And I just wanted to do a kind of brief follow up on it because I was thinking further about this. I think that smallness could be forgiven if the political class were actually focused on the problems of this country. And what I mean by that is, if you look around this country at the moment, you see, as I'm sure I do, a decaying state, a public realm that is starting to look pretty second world, to be honest, institutions and services which simply don't perform their tasks properly. And you see an absentee political class who don't actually seem to be particularly interested in any of these things. I'll give you some examples. Obviously, the border force that doesn't actually police the borders, but actually simply acts as a ferry service into the country. The Islamist takeover of the prisons, which has now been well documented. As I said, the public realm, rubbish everywhere, broken street barriers, roads that are decaying, etc., etc. Police service that doesn't seem capable of actually doing basic policing. And so much more. And in all of these cases, yes, there are resourcing problems there, but actually a lot of the time it's simply that no one's actually managing anything. Everything's working on autopilot. And we don't actually seem to see anyone in the political class actually who seem to be interested in these problems. Oh, they'll have another report and they'll do this and they'll think, but there doesn't seem to be actually any sudden move to change anything. And this isn't new, by the way. These problems all started under the Tories, and they did next to nothing about it as well. I mean, look at the knife crime epidemic in London, which was a mixture of Khan for Labour and the Tories in central government. They did nothing as it exploded. Certainly, there was no heavy response to stop it at the beginning. And then what happens is once a process starts and people realise the state's not actually going to do very much, well, the incentive structure is to keep going. You saw this with the shoplifting post the COVID lockdowns. You saw this with the border force and the channel. In each case, not only is there a problem there, but the problem actually would be a lot smaller if the political class actually demonstrated an interest in the problem in the first place and demanded action and actually commanded it. And for me, it is that juxtaposition between a complete disinterest in the basic functioning of the country and the breakdown of the processes, institutions and organisations that should be actually making the country work, but also the fact that they're not even interested in the big stuff that's going on around the world. I mean, they appear to be utterly oblivious in both directions. I mean, look at Starmer today, off in China, wandering around, trying to get a few crumbs off of their table. Has he looked at the Chinese government, the Chinese economy recently? The Chinese economy is mired in deflation. It is massively in debt. It is oversupplied, under-consuming, and is, to be honest, in deep, deep trouble. And yet that's where Starmer's gone to try and reboot our economic future. In the same way that he doesn't seem to have any awareness of what's going actually on in Europe, inside the EU, and the major economies over there. France and Germany are in frightful trouble, both politically and economically. As I said, that could be forgiven if you turn around and say, well, actually, they're so focused on the problems at home, but they don't seem to be focused on anything that's important. In actual fact, the Westminster bubble seems to be more interested in the trials and tribulations of the different parties. And Labour, particularly since it's come in, seems to have focused down on... What has it focused on? A Chagos deal, which is going to cost us billions for no particular reason. Assisted suicide that no one even asked for and wasn't in the manifesto. And the other one has obviously been legalising abortion to term. Where's the priorities on what we're supposed to be looking at? there is a smallness to our politics at both sides. The system seems to have, and the people within it seems to have largely withdrawn into itself and is of no functional use to anyone. And by the way, I'm no expert on a lot of these things, but at the same time, having a modicum of interest in these things can educate you a long way. Jesus Christ, just look at a news channel or economics YouTube channel occasionally if you want to know what's going on in the rest of the world. And yet there isn't that interest. This isn't new, by the way. As I said, the Tories, it started under the Tories. But certainly and that 14 long years during Brexit really demonstrated the parlous state of our politics. I mean, I remember the meaningful votes for Brexit, where after they'd done all these votes and they'd rejected them all, each and every one of them, it was one of the newspapers reported that someone was going to go in to brief them on what the single market was and what the customs union was, or what a customs union was, after the votes. Not before it, after it. And this was maybe 3-4 years into Brexit. I mean, you could go look that up on YouTube. It'll take you a minute or two to work out both. It's not hard. Seriously, it's not that hard. I mean, obviously there's detail there, but to understand the basics is really not that hard. And again, you saw that smallness during the debate. The debates. Debate is a big word for what it was. The what petulant wine fest that came with the Afghan withdrawal, where all the people who had been in Parliament, many of them had made the choices or been part of government that had made the choices to obliterate the armed forces, or many of them also had been in the preceding Labour government or party who'd even got us into the war in the first place, all sat there and whined on about the fact that we didn't seem to have the ability to do anything about the fact the United States was withdrawing. Again, that smallness and insularness that seems to now pervade the political system. They don't seem to want to actually understand the world. They certainly don't seem to want to actually understand the implications of the choices they make, or lack of choices. And certainly in the last 5 years or so, that seems to have become the big story. Just MPs tutting a lot and complaining the fact that it's all so complicated and they don't have any power to do anything. You've got all the power you like if you're in government. If you've got a majority in the House of Commons, and well, even without that, if you've got a majority in the House of Commons, but also hopefully in the House of Lords, you can do whatever you like. The Westminster model is effectively an elected dictatorship in terms of ability to do stuff, as long as you can command both. So when they say they can't do something, what that actually basically means is they don't want to do something about it. Again, that insularity. It's a way of almost pushing blame away by simply going, it's not our fault. You see this all the time over stuff like, I know, what's a good one? Critical infrastructure. Oh, we can't build anything. Yes, we know we can't build anything. We need to do planning reform, but we can't do X, Y, Z until we do plan reform. Parliament could walk people could walk through Parliament right now a series of acts that would basically force through critical infrastructure in via Act of Parliament. They literally could pass legislation commanding that Heathrow Airport would be built, various nuclear power plants be built, by simply passing an act which basically saying that Parliament wants it built, and that the act supersedes any and all legal reasons that may get in the way, including regulation, previous acts of Parliament, treaties, or anything else. You could have, in theory, if there was a company ready to go to do it, with the relevant plan and everything else, you could have picks in the ground within weeks on nearly anything if Parliament really wanted to, if government really wanted to. And they don't, because they don't really want the responsibility. It is this insularity, this smallness that we see again and again and again. And it's simply not good enough. as I said in my last video, it's simply no longer tolerable. We see a world that is falling to pieces. We see a country that is literally rotting into the ground. We see out of control institutions. We see dysfunctional management and oversight. We see legal structures that simply are no longer fit for purpose. And we demand politicians who are willing to do something about it. And I say that now because, again, it's now been reported that Labour has basically long grasped benefit reform. The benefit bill at this stage is likely to bankrupt the country by the end of this parliament, such as the growth, most of it fraudulent, let me be very clear. How do I know it's fraudulent? Because next to no other country is seeing the same level of increase that we're seeing here. Just as they have effectively started the process to long grasp special educational needs spending, which is again a massive drain on the public services. And again, people can see it's very clearly fraudulent. Why? Because there is a sudden uptick like never before. You see now Labour, just like the Tories before, are absentee. And instead of focusing down on the real problems that we have, they are instead wasting time and more money on things that matter not one jot to the average person in this country. They waste the money also that we need to invest in the stuff that we will want for the future. The stuff that will give us cheap energy, which will drive increased productivity. I mean, that's a really good example, again, of the absentee system. Labour can see that their energy prices from net zero, which they are doubling down on in China, and they are doubling down on with the EU reset, where they are now currently increasing the cost of carbon, is deindustrialising the country. Everyone can see it. It's well documented now. This has happened across the whole of Europe. But rather than pivot and actually start thinking about it, there is that insularness, there is that shallowness, there is that smallness of thinking to just double down and go ahead with it. As long as you're part of the gang, which I think this is a massive part why most of them absolutely hate being outside the EU. Because when you're in the EU, you can blame the bloc for your problems, and you can simply hide your crap, terrible, incompetent, lazy and ignorant decision making amongst the broader pack of other leaders within the other member states. And you see this again and again. And that is exactly why Labour wants to rush back towards it. It just can't go on, though. We can't go on like this. I reject and absolutely resent the idea that my son is going to grow up in a country in this state. Now, people say to me, well, what's the alternative? Reform's not got it. I don't know. I can't even promise I'm going to vote for reform at the next election. I don't know that. I will vote as appropriate nearer the time. However, let me be clear. This system, and when I say this system, this political system is dying. And I will throw any stone I can find to finish it off, as I think a lot of other people will do. And I think that is the thing that is now very much underpriced. People just want to break this system because this system, this political settlement, this economic settlement, this social settlement is toxic for so many people now. And I say that as someone who, in relative terms, is doing okay. But nearly everyone else I know, and many of them are, just like me, relatively successful, middle class, whatever else, they are hurting. They are very, very angry. And I think people in charge should be very, very wary of where this goes. Because I think if you don't see some sort of serious effort to actually listen and respond, even if it means upsetting your own class of people, and their petty little worldviews and projects, and we get on with actually building a country that's moving in the right direction, give people hope, whilst also waking up to the reality of the world we live in, then I really worry about where we're going. Because I think that what comes after reform, if either reform is rejected or is kept out via tactical voting, or they fail, which is an infinitely possible thing if they were even to win power, or the Greens as an alternative, as another party that's basically going to a brick thrown at the system, then I really worry about what comes next in this country, because I think that we are at breaking point.